Hello everyone. So we are back with another installment of Stitch With Me Chronicles. So SWM Chronicles. My name is Dobby. This is my channel covered in floss. That is at least in this segment, it is totally dedicated to cross stitching and me talking. So if you enjoyed if you enjoyed my last video, I hope that you're going to enjoy this one. If you are new here, welcome, and I really hope that you're going to like it. So let's start. Today we are working on Anne of Green Gables, and here we're going to have the full picture. And as you can see, this is just quite some have been done. I just hit the I'm just trying to see what you could see in the camera, but maybe I will just take a picture and insert it after the video. So but I basically hit the bottom corner, and I wanted to continue stitching on this column, but I kind of got bored, so I'm not going to continue with that, and we're moving to the top, and we're going to get a bit into this green area because I absolutely love working on these greens. So let me just place everything in my hoop. I'm just double checking if everything is visible. Yes, should be, and let's hope that it's going to work. So as I said, this is Amy Stewart, Anne of Green Gables, charted by Heaven Designs, and as usual with my full coverage pieces, this one is also stitched on 22 count Zweigart Sulta, normally hardanger. I'm using that for my full coverages, and I'm stitching with CXC threads 1/1. It gives me a really good coverage in my opinion, so not going to complain. So let me just choose one of the colors and let's see how's that going to go. So which color should I choose? I guess that we are going to go with, surprise, green. Yay! So we are getting into the gorgeous 905. Let me just get here. Let me just maybe move that here so you can see that. So for this project, just trying to get that underneath here. So for this project, I have just like a box with all my sorry for the like knocking sounds. For this project, I have all my colors in a box. They are all bobbinated, and as I enjoyed that again so much at the moment, I decided to create a master set for all my threads, and I have them all bobbinated. So we have 905, this gorgeous green. Let me just, okay, I don't know what it's like with the light today. Let me just maybe open my blinds a bit. It's just super hot today, so I have everything just like as darkened as possible, so the heat is a bit more bearable. Doesn't help so much, but at least a bit. And I really hope that you cannot hear the fan that is just like in the background, because I had it running for some time at the moment, so I cannot basically hear that anymore, because without that it's just you just cannot do anything here. So let me just thread my needle and we can start. So basically, when I was thinking about like doing this Stitch With Me and just doing that in the series, just trying to place it in a way that you can see everything. So when I was thinking about doing this series, I was just very much thinking about myself. Surprise, surprise. Why? Let me just start this color properly so I will know that everything is on accord. But give me a second, can I just make it a teeny tiny... Oh, yay! Now it should be better. Now I think you should be able to see more. Yeah, perfect. So I was thinking about doing that for myself. Why? So as you know from my general videos, I like talking a lot, and thanks to my ADHD, I am an oversharer. So you are sometimes exposed to gorgeous things like trauma dumping and so on, because my brain just doesn't have the proper filter here. But I decided that as I have a lot of friends at the moment, and you basically never know what struggles anyone is going through, I decided that I'm going to use my gift of oversharing and maybe talk a bit about things that are not so often talked about. And somehow today, the thing that is coming very much up to the surface is mental health in general. So if you are a subscriber or a returning viewer, you will know about my struggles and discoveries and diagnosis and how much things were changing in my life. So I hope that it's going to fit into the character limit in the title here, but if it doesn't, I'm just going to give you the full quote. So I'm an avid podcast listener, and one of my favorite podcasts is Last Podcast on the Left, and one of the hosts, Marcus Parks, he said one thing that resonates with me very, very much. Mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And I think that I am pretty responsible with my mental health, but I have to admit that it wasn't always the easiest. So I was just thinking that maybe if I say something, it may resonate with some of you. Maybe you will see yourself in that. Maybe you will just listen to somebody who shares. Because I would really, really love that one day I will wake up in a world where things like depression, anxiety disorder, and so on, these things are not any kind of stigma, that they are treated like quote unquote normal type of illness, any kind of physical illness. The same with any kind of chronic illness. And that maybe one day we're going to all be in a world where we are all being treated in a way we should be treated. And I'm not only talking about other people's behaviors, but also about the treatment that is or isn't available for so many things. So, just starting from the beginning. So, I'm not going to go into details why, but I think that I realized that I need help for the first time when I was 14. But unfortunately, that wasn't available to the extent that I would need that. At that time, I had exactly one session with a psychologist, and that was it. So, nothing to write home about, but still, that was like the first moment when I realized that there are things in me that I am not going to be able to deal with on my own. However, as I didn't get help at that time, it kind of went away. Not that the problems went away, but the thought about looking for help went away. So I let it boil. I let it boil somewhere under the surface, and it slowly, very slowly, started coming out. So, I finally, when I was 25, 26. So as you can see, it's just, it was about 12 years since the first time when I tried to ask somebody for help. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Unfortunately, at that time, I wasn't very lucky with the psychiatrist that I was seeing, and basically she told me that some of that my depression and my anxiety are my fault. That some actions from the past could have caused it. And I almost believed that for many, many years, but I put it somewhere aside in my brain. And then, I don't know, it was just like maybe 2 years ago or something, when I remembered exactly what she said. And I started Googling, I started talking to my therapist, and I started talking to my new psychiatrist if what she said was true, and they're just like, absolutely not. So, being depressed and having a specialist basically tell you that the fact that you are feeling so terrible is your fault, that this is the consequence of your actions, and basically you brought it on yourself, wasn't the coolest. And being like me, at that time I didn't have too much reason not to believe the doctors, not to believe what they were saying and so on. So yeah, it hit me very, very hard. However, at least at that time I got the diagnosis and I got some help, because it was very bad. They were a few unsuccessful attempts in my life to do things that at the moment just like give me shivers when I think about that. But at that time I felt so bad with myself that I basically didn't see any other choice. So yeah, basically I think that I will definitely give a trigger warning into the video description. That was heavy. That was very, very heavy at that time, and it was super dark time in my life. But when I started taking meds and I started therapy, it kind of instantly got better. Got better. And only now I realize that, of course, it instantly got better because I am a people's pleaser. And at the time, I was telling my psychiatrist and my therapist what they wanted to hear. So, but of course, hindsight is 2020. So, I can tell you that now I had no idea then, and nobody caught it at that time. So, yay everyone in this situation. But it was also another moment where I kind of got saved by a diagnosis, because knowing something, it is maybe like in the old fairy tales. If you have a villain and you don't know their name, they can have all the power over you. And the moment when you get to know their name, the situation changes, the power balance shifts a bit. So you are not so lost in the whole situation. But yeah, that was the first step. But just looking back at the moment, I didn't have luck with people that were treating me at the beginning, because if a few things were addressed earlier, maybe like the next stages in my life would look a bit better, a bit different. But I didn't know then, I know now, but I can guess now. It's not necessarily just knowing something straight away. But yeah, so I think it was about 2009, 2010 when I started getting treated. But as I felt better, so of course, especially then, still living in Poland is still very, very not open to any kind of mental health issues and trying to look for help. regarding the same and so on, and basically everything is still super hush-hush. So when I decided, me, the biggest specialist in the whole scenario, when I decided that I was better, so I stopped taking my pills. Listen, children, this is Dobby PSA. Never, absolutely never do it on your own. It's a very, very sensitive process and should be done always under the supervision of your medical provider, your psychiatrist, or like a normal doctor. But yeah, but I did it myself because why not? And it didn't end well. However, I was, again, it's just like maybe one day I'm going to tell you something more about that. But it again wasn't like the easiest time in my life, and it got so bad that I had to leave my work. I had to move back to my parents, and I needed to look for help again. But this time it was the need. I had to find somebody, because otherwise I really don't know what would happen with me. But I found somebody like that. I was super lucky, and I had an amazing psychiatrist / therapist in Poland. And basically after seeing me for some time and just talking to me, she just looked at me and she was just like, "Girl, do you have 8 weeks? Because we need to get you into a clinic to get you properly set up with your meds and to attend some intense therapy sessions so you can find yourself again." So she's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I spent some time in a clinic. It was an open ward, so basically we had some therapy, group and individual, and some kind of other activities between 9 and 3. And after that, we could have, it was our like free time. We could have done what we wanted. So there was just some gym happening for me, lots of stitching, because that was the time when I actually discovered stitching, and it, oh my god, I found so much goodness in that. And yeah, it was an amazing experience for me, because finally there were a few things that started being addressed. Again, I think that even though I was really lucky at that time with the doctor and the therapist team and with the group that I was with, I think that it wasn't enough. And again, I was trying to please everyone. And if you looked at me, there was definitely more progress visible than there really was. So yeah, but it definitely helped me to kind of start finding myself a bit, start finding like a new, more stable footing in life. And yeah, after some time, after I finished this tournée in the clinic, I was with my therapist, this main one, for a few months still. But then I moved to the UK, and in the UK, unfortunately, if you are from the UK, mental health help, at least at that time, it was 2013, so it's over 10 years ago, it was crap. It was really crap. Trying to find anyone, trying to find any help and so on, and even mention anything to your GP, that was like a complete no-no. So again, as I kind of felt okay, I was doing good, because why not? It was like a complete change of scenery. I had a really cool job, I thought. And I decided that I'm doing okay. Editor's note, I wasn't doing okay. But on the surface, everything was fine. So there was again, but this time with the doctor, I decided to stop taking medication. It took a few weeks to just like get off them and so on. And that was a mistake, of course. But who could know? Who could know? Tell me. Definitely not me, who already just like went through that. So yeah, it is said that you are learning on your mistakes, but sometimes I would really appreciate the mistakes to be listed into some kind of manual and create, especially for me with the big red cover. Don't do it. But yeah, I can tell you now that I know, I would never again. But it took me a moment to finally get there. But yeah, so I was in the UK, and it was going pretty good. Oh my god, I think that I will just like need to, maybe one day, to do like a whole bloody episode of how to survive your own family. But that's a bit different story, and probably if I started getting into that, it would take me a moment longer, like 4 episodes of everything. But don't get me wrong, I really love my family. The problem is that sometimes I just don't like them. So that's a totally different thing. But oh well. So yeah, it was kind of okay in the UK. Quite flowy. And at that time, I met my ex-boyfriend. He was here in Germany, and after like almost 2 years of doing long distance, I decided that I'm going to move to Germany. And when I moved to Germany, it was like there was a lot of stress because finding work wasn't that easy, and there was just like lots of stress at that time. And I decided that I start feeling not so good, and I need to go back to my antidepressants. But oh my god, that was such a huge difference in comparison to the UK, especially because I was just like talking to my house arts, so basically my GP. We were talking about the issue, about my diagnosis and so on, and it turned out that if I already, because I had the prescription from my psychiatrist in Poland, that if you already have a prescription from your psychiatrist, you can basically just go to your GP and they are going to refill your prescriptions as well. So it's absolutely not a problem. So that was really helpful. So I was on medication, and I was really super happy. Everything was working really nicely. At that time I wasn't in therapy because it was really difficult to find anyone who was speaking English and was available. So without therapy, just with medication, but it was working. So yeah, why not? But again, I think that like the people's pleaser topic is going to be like very prominent today. I started a new position at work. It was a kind of trial period, so of course everyone wanted to prove themselves in the position, and I definitely started doing too much. And again, because at that time I was at this strange stage in my life that I was always defined by something or somebody else. And at that time it was work. So work was my basically everything. And that was my first burnout. But it was bad. It was really bad. I had one day at work. It was intense and so on, and that was the day when the decision was given if who is getting the new position, because there were two of us, who is getting this new position, and it turned out it was me. I got the new position. I was presented everything, and it hit me in such a strange way that I came back home. I think it was around after 4, between 3 and 4. and I started crying. And as I started crying then, I couldn't finish, and I couldn't stop for even a moment for basically next 4 hours. So around 8, my then boyfriend packed me into the car and took me to the emergency. And it wasn't like a normal emergency, because it was like it was like a regular surgery, like a regular praxis. And in the evenings, it was Friday, they had some kind of emergency hours. So you basically were seeing like a regular doctor, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like waiting at A&E somewhere on the ER, somewhere in the hospital, but it was in a bit quieter environment. So that was super helpful also in this situation, because remember, I still couldn't stop crying, and I was just like sobbing. I was basically getting dehydrated because of that. And I think that this is where my luck started, because I met an amazing nurse who looked at me, who talked to me for, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. And she was just like, wait here, I need to make a few phone calls. And so she did. She came back after like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. And she was just, you won't get help. Wait, we are just getting a gorgeous knot in here. And she was, nobody can help you here. You need a specialist, and you need help now. You need help immediately. And it turned out that when I was waiting for her, she was basically calling a few clinics in the area, and she found me a bed in the, it's called crisis clinic here. So again, it was like an open ward. I was the inpatient, however, we had like different activities, and it was lots of activities in addition to like therapy and meetings with your with the doctor, with your therapist, and so on. It was also lots of therapy through movement, lots of therapy through art, and so on, and it was absolutely amazing. And so yeah, she found me a bed, and on Friday, 10 p.m, I got there, and I spent 6 weeks in there. And it turned out that despite me being so diligent this time with my medication decided to play a nasty trick on me, and they stopped working. And I had within like basically 6 months, I think, I had my dosage doubled, if I remember correctly, or even doubled and a bit, but still it didn't do anything. And on top of everything, it turned out that if these meds are not working and they are taken in a dosage that is a bit too high than it should be, and guess what, because just like I was in the biggest shock, I would expect anything, really anything, but not that. They could cause chronic sinus infections. So I was getting sick. I was losing time at work. So I was getting double stressed. And I needed to have my antidepressants pumped up a bit. But it was causing only the next sinus infection. So yay me, all the fun. But I finally got put on the medication that basically changed my life. And it's been over 6 years at the moment. And despite still having some lows and so on, I can tell you that in general, this is the happiest I felt in my life. So if you struggle and you meet a specialist who wants to put you on medication, maybe consider that. I'm not going to tell you do it, because you are an adult in this situation and you know what's best for you, but just consider that. So I could put on the best medication combo that could happen to me, still on the same, and I'm still here, which I think is the biggest achievement of mine in this whole situation that is called my life at the moment. But this is not the end of the story. This is not the end of the story, because after I left the clinic, I started looking for a therapist. I found a therapist that was covered by the insurer here. He spoke English and so on. Friends, if I met him now, after all these years of being on good meds and finding myself with everything and so on, I would probably punch him. So he got me to such a bad point that another all-day crying session happened to me. But this time I was strong enough that I managed to break up with my therapist via text and never looked back. I started looking online, and a friend of a friend who's a therapist in Poland, she recommended me her friend who was also doing like the online therapy and so on. I decided to give it a try, and I think that soon she will be my longest relationship in my life, because it's been almost 6 years, almost, or more, maybe even more than 6 years. So she is already my longest relationship in my life. And I really cannot imagine a better fit for myself than she is. And I am just like so super grateful. And with the rest, in terms of like the depression and anxiety and basically like dealing with everyday issues, she helped me to find so much strength in me that I'm definitely a completely different person than I was this 6 years ago. However, she was also, because basically, have you ever been in a regular therapy? Please tell me if that works similar for you, because I have a feeling that it is a bit like trying to clean acne. If you want to get rid of something, you first need to bring it up to the surface so it can be cleaned. And sometimes you are just clearing all the zits and boils that are like on top of everything. But then it turns out that there was something more serious underneath. So this is what has been happening, and it is a process. It's a really long healing process, and healing definitely is not linear. So you cannot expect that everything is just going to go like that. It's ups and downs, high and lows, many things that you just need to endure sometimes. But thanks to her amazing help, I started looking into getting tested for ADHD. It already kind of appeared once in my life, but actually ADHD in women at that time wasn't even so commonly considered, not even just like talking about testing and so on. So I was being tested for BPD, for bipolar disorder. It was negative, but when I was reading about that once again, it turns out that it can be very often very similar, BPD and some of the ADHD symptoms, but as ADHD at that time wasn't tested, so of course with the BPD diagnosis being just like out of window, it was just kind of left. So when during one of the sessions my therapist just looked at me and she was just like, have you ever been tested for ADHD? I was just like, no, should I? And she was, to be honest, I would definitely consider that. And I don't know what the situation is in the UK or in the US, but here in Germany, it's a pain. So I was trying to find a place that would test me, that is conducting the tests and is specializing in testing and treatment, because of course you can always just like get some kind of back alley place, but I wouldn't trust them so much. And I really wanted to know because, as I said from the beginning, I already learned that mental health issues are not my fault, but they are definitely my responsibility. So I was just trying to find like a proper place, but they didn't even have a waiting list opened for next 3 years. So nope, I needed to look into a bit different direction. And again, here, me being from Poland helped a lot, because I could find like a private place where they do testing also for people who are not insured in Poland. So I managed to do that, and it was a very, very clear diagnosis that, yeah, this is ADHD. And I have to tell you, when I finally got the diagnosis, I started crying, but this time it was crying super happy tears. And why? If you have never struggled in your life, it is probably super, super difficult to understand how can anyone be happy having this kind of diagnosis. Why is getting a label so important? Let me tell you, friends, why it was so important. Again, I had the name. I had the name for something that was bothering me apparently for most of my life, that was so deep hidden in me that it could have also caused my depression and my anxiety. And imagine going through life being a bloody perfectionist. 99% was never enough. I always needed to have everything done at least 110. I always needed to be the high achiever, and that was something that was defining me for most of my life, because I wasn't able to find worth within me. So I was looking for worth and validation in things around me. So it was through work, through relationships, anything, but not me as me myself. So looking for this kind of validation, I needed to be on top. And I started realizing that I am unable to do that. When I was giving my 300%, I could barely get the same results as people who weren't even at their 100. Everything took me always more time. It took more effort. And you know, the older you get, the more you start realizing this kind of stuff. And you start wondering, am I okay? Am I stupid? And after you start asking yourself these questions, they slowly trickle into your subconsciousness, and the questions stop being questions. They become statements. You don't ask yourself, am I stupid? You tell yourself, I am stupid. I am stupid. I am not enough. I am not good enough. I will never achieve this and that. Because what comes so easy is definitely self-doubt, self-hatred, and being a master at making the most obnoxious, self-deprecating jokes. So once you get the diagnosis that this is ADHD, that your brain is wired differently, that's why you need a bit more time. That's why you sometimes need to get to the results through like a bit different method, different way. That verbal instructions can be repeated to me like 50 times and still I can have issues. And suddenly you realize that for your whole life you have been a fish trying to climb a tree. You have been a person who was trying to put a big square peg into a small round hole. And it wasn't because you don't see the correlation between round and square, but you only received square pegs. There are no round ones. So you were basically working with what you were given. And as it wasn't a perfect tool, it wasn't working. So with the diagnosis, the first thing that I learned was to change the vocabulary, change the way I was thinking and I was talking about myself. I started seeking gentleness within myself. Being gentle with myself Friends, I need to tell you, I think that this is the most difficult thing that I was kind of forced to learn. Because, you know, I was diagnosed when I was 40. Imagine, basically 40 years of thinking negatively of yourself, being everything but gentle, and suddenly you need to learn how to change that. Did I manage to do that 100%? Nope. Do I remember when I'm being nasty to myself, when I'm just trying to, again, mentally slap myself? Do I get reminded by myself to change it? Yes. And I think that this is a really, really huge achievement. It is still a process. There is a lot of work that I need to put into that, but I'm very, very hopeful. And during my last video, I said that ADHD meds helped me to go back to reading. So that was one of the things. But the first time I took the meds, and I remember it was like 40 minutes later, I think. I was working, I was sitting in front of my computer, and suddenly I became very, very aware of the silence. And I'm not talking about the external silence, but the silence was in my head. And it was the moment where I realized that my head, in its normal state, is always running at the highest gear. So there is absolutely no slowing down. I have at least two thought tracks, I would say. One is like the more to the surface, so when I'm thinking about whatever I am doing at the moment and so on. But there is always the second one that is just like going somewhere underneath, and there was always a buzz in my head, and this buzz was making me so restless, and I couldn't catch a break, and mentally I was so extremely tired. And of course, when you are tired, you cannot be the best version of yourself as well. So when it hit me that there is silence in my head and I can breathe, I cried. I am not ashamed to tell you that I cried. And if I was to experience that for the first time once again, I would definitely cry again. Because it was just so beautiful. The thing about me is that I am rarely able to function in silence. I need to have something when I'm working, when I'm doing something. I need to have something in the background, because otherwise the noise from my own head is going to take its place, and any external noise is better than the inside noise. So yeah, so just being hit with this silence and this kind of peaceful nothingness was like the most beautiful thing ever. Of course, it's just like, this is it's not so gorgeous every day, and like meds is not a magical thing that is going to help you and change you straight away. But knowing that I have like tools to do more, to achieve more, this is something that is definitely worth celebrating. So at the moment I am taking my medication, and things suddenly became different. After my ADHD diagnosis and working with my new psychiatrist, it turned out that what I was also struggling for my whole life. So I was mentioning that I have always struggled with my weight and so on. So I kind of learned that what I was struggling actually was an eating disorder. So, yay me. At the moment I am able to laugh about it. That's, yeah, it's just my luck that I didn't get the quote-unquote glamorous one that makes you skinny. But the other one, it's called binge eating disorder, and it's not pretty. Absolutely not pretty. But again, I got a name, and in the ADHD medication, I got a tool to help me work on it, fight against it. And of course, this is also something that we are touching with my therapist. So that helps a lot. And thanks to that, there was also lots of things that changed within me. The way I am looking at myself, it's absolutely not perfect, no, but I am getting there. And for the first time in my life, I believe that things can really get better. And I am learning at the moment to embrace the chaos that is my life, is me. And I'm learning how to make the best of it, because it is possible. For the first time in my life, I am not thinking about myself as damaged, broken, not enough. I am simply neurospicy, things in my brain are working a bit differently than in other people. But yeah, variety is definitely the neuro spice of life, so why not? So I've been talking for over an hour at the moment, and this is just something that I wanted to share, that no matter how bad everything seems and how bad you feel about yourself and about anything happening in your life, I just want you to remember that you are not alone. You are never alone, and there are people who love you, and there are people who need you, and I need you. So if you ever need an ear to listen, anyone to talk to, there is no possibility to send messages on YouTube, but if you go to my normal videos, there is my email. If you need somebody to talk to, never hesitate to contact me. I know that I am only a stranger from the internet, but I also know that sometimes strangers from the internet are exactly the people that you need. So I truly hope that me now bearing my soul here will help you understand how important you are, and that you are not alone. And if you ever need anything, anyone, I am here. And I want to thank you for being here with me, for listening to me, even if that was definitely not the easiest topic imaginable, but it was definitely something that needs to be talked about more. So together we did 248 stitches on Anne of Green Gables, so this is, yay, quite a bit, I would say. Thank you for your time, thank you for spending this time with me, and thank you for being here. Love you so much, guys. Happy stitching. Bye bye.